Hello and welcome to the Soul Sync podcast. It's me, Jason Paul, and you're in the place where you're going to have your consciousness awakened. You're going to feel on a better vibration, and you're certainly going to be more knowledgeable by the time you get to the end of this episode. I tell you that. Now, I've got a guest for you called Melissa O'Sullivan. She's a psychic medium. Our paths first crossed a number of years ago on a course, and Melissa's dedication to getting to know her spirit team really made me stand up and take stock. I tell you that. It reminds me of Tortoise, the hare, how much I would run ahead with my mediumship at the very beginning. And Melissa's dedication of making an appointment with her spirit team, so both they know and she knows, and it got her into a good discipline, which is very much needed in mediumship. Now, this episode is titled The Free Tuition from Spirit That Nobody Talks About. Now, when you're trying to develop your mediumship, you might be drawn to courses. I know I go on a lot of courses, and there's a lot to be said about courses. You know, you get to meet other people, like-minded souls, people trying to develop and being in that safe space to practice your mediumship. But, you know, you can always find yourself chasing the next course and whatever that might be. And Melissa's story and the purpose of this episode is to explore how that dedication to sitting for your spirit team, they really are the best teachers. Your guides are here to help you. And at the end of the day, it's the ability to sit and be able to work with that energy, because essentially everything is energy. And developing your mediumship is about working through those faculties and really getting to understand, you know, what do you feel when the spirit world are around you? And that is such an important part of development. Our pioneers at the very beginning, I tell you what, they didn't have workshops, they didn't have online courses, they didn't have Zoom, books in the library about mediumship, but I can assure you probably were few and far between at that. So they sat and they just developed because of the way they felt. So this is an interesting one. Enjoy. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to say this. Melissa O'Sullivan, welcome to the Soul Sync.
Hello, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's lovely to have you here. So, Melissa, I know you to be one of the nicest human beings. You know, I met you at the Arthur Findlay College. Oh, actually, no, I met you on an online event, first of all. We were partners doing a mediumship reading for one another. And then we went on a weekend course together, and it was a privilege to spend time with you. So, please tell the listener what you do, who you are, where you come from.
Right. Well, hello, Jason and everyone.
Hello.
Basically, about 5 years ago, we started our journey into mediumship. And really, as a small child, I could see and hear spirit. And then from about the age of 9, I could really see and hear. And then I went off on my merry journey of life, and I became a hotelier. And I did that for 20 years. And then that kind of came to retirement time. And I lived in a quite spooky house, shall we say. And really, it got to the point that I either turned it on or turned it off. And so I went on the Arthur Findlay College journey, and I was fascinated. I was like, oh my God, why didn't I do this before? And then I met you and lots of other lovely, lovely friends along the way. And I've now just got to the point from lots and lots of training, lots and lots of learning, lots of development. And I've just really started off in 2026 of launching my website and actually doing this part-time, full-time as a job.
You're taking, it's an exciting period of change. You're taking a leap now to fully, believing and empowering yourself to do what, I know to be your calling. And what is your calling? And it does, it takes courage to step into that. And you're busy. It's thriving.
There's a lot of spirits to work with, to be honest. Yeah. So it is. It's getting that development right, the confidence right, and then within yourself believing that you can help people, and that's what it's all about.
It's beautiful. And I think that with the development as well, I know that knowing you over a number of years, you know, you go through these sorts of learning cycles, you know, even, am I good enough? Can I really do this? And, you know, you go through stages of growth where, you know, your life around you starts to look entirely different to when you started off on the journey. How do you feel that this, I guess, the mediumship, and since you've been on this journey, has impacted in, you know, other areas of your life? Because obviously now it's becoming a career, but have you noticed it's helped you in, you know, lots of other ways?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because even with friendships, really, and I think one of the most beautiful things about this that comes out of it is the friendships that you gain going on a spiritual journey. Because for the first time in my life, in my 40s, I had friends that I could openly talk about what I saw, what I knew, what I experienced. And that wasn't a world for 40 years that I kept very quiet to myself. Didn't really want to say too much about intuition or ghosts too much, unless somebody brought the topic of conversation up. So just to actually feel free to be myself and talk in a way that other people understood was a huge tick for me, and maybe allowed me to be the real me a little bit. And, you know, the experience as well of all these lovely, lovely friends that I've made who are just inspirational, and all with different abilities, all with such different personalities, different takes on spirituality. Who wouldn't want to be part of that? It's incredible.
Well, you're making me, as you were saying that, it was kind of making me think of finding your tribe, so to speak, because I kind of felt that for years, even with, I guess, having ADHD and not knowing what it was for years. I'd always say, oh, God, you know, I struggle to make friends. Part of it is because I kind of would feel that maybe I was a lot more mature in some way and I maybe didn't have anything in common. Yeah. But I guess a lot of it is about, you know, finding your people, finding people who understand, you know, where you are and what you're thinking and how you see the world and how you process it. You know, a lot of people say that the first time they ever walked in a church, it was like a homecoming.
Yeah, it's very true, isn't it? And I mean, I didn't even know a spiritual church existed, actually.
Well, we are spoilt in this country. Yes. We are in this country, and there's lots of people who listen to this, I know, who could only dream of having a church that encourages communication through the spirit.
Yeah. Because it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, It's a stage of play, really, and also not only a place of God, but it's got something each for everybody. So nobody leaves a church without having something personal to them, and that's very special.
I agree. Do you know what I want to do is because one thing I've really seen in you over these years, because we've both been on sort of different stages of our journey, is we were talking about this before we hit the record button, that, you know, where am I? Because sadly we haven't had as much time to catch up, but where are you on your mediumship journey compared to where am I? And it's very interesting to see how you've sort of developed. And I've always felt with you, a massive part of why I think that you've progressed is the discipline and the consistency and the continuity of, you know, how you view spirit. And you always said something to me that still, you know, rings true in my ear today, which is, and we had to laugh about this in the early days, but, you know, about you having a certain time that you would sit for the spirit well, because, and actually I believed at that point in my development that you would sit with them at that time because they would know to only be there in that time. You were making your diary appointment with them, Melissa, carrying across those successful business traits of yours. yours. You would make an appointment and you would stick to that meeting every day, whereas I'd make that appointment and I'd do one of those tentative things in the Outlook diary where maybe I'll show up, spirit. Well, maybe I won't. Maybe I won't. But for you, I want to kind of go back to how you were developing this, because you've seen spirits growing up and you were having these sensations. And I can never imagine myself, I wish that would have happened to me, but I sensed it all my life, but I hadn't, I felt things and I was sensitive, but you were seeing that all through. So lots of people do listen to this podcast who are trying to connect to this power that is available to all of us, and it can help in every aspect of our life, whether it be you want to connect to spirits mediumistically, you want to get a creative force. I actually believe that the answer to everything that we need exists within us. Our soul knows what we need. We don't need to be looking outside of ourselves for answers. So I want to go back to, how you develop that, how you have progressed, and walk us through sort of what people can do to sort of connect, I guess.
Well, I believe, and I believe this because I feel my spirit guides taught me this. So an inward knowing of information, but obviously tutors as well, going on courses teach you about sitting in the power. And you obviously sit with a lot of students, and some students might go, oh, I have not time for that. That's the big answer, isn't it? And some students might be very into it in maybe a more really, really going for it kind of attitude, slightly different to myself as well. So it seems to be a thing. As soon as you say sitting in the power, I think everyone has like or an effect on people, right? Because they're like, oh no, not the words of sitting in the power.
Well, it evokes different reactions, and it's evoked different reactions.
Yeah.
Well, over my evolution, it has. Sitting in the power, first of all, I saw it as meditation. Then I couldn't really understand what it was. Then I felt I was in it, but wasn't in control of it. Then... Then I thought I knew.
Journey, yeah.
What it is.
Yeah.
No, I spent part of my time. Go on. I'm stealing your.
So, as soon as I was talked about this sitting in the power, I was like, oh, I get this, right? You've got to sit with spirit so they know you want to communicate. Now, you're not communicating, but you're telling them not only have I seen ghosts or I've know things and I've been in my little world, but okay, I'm going to sit with you to send out the intention that I'm actually going to pay some attention to what I've been seeing, hearing, feeling for the last 40 years of my life. And I'm going to start to talk. But I'm not going to just start talking to a spirit and say, oh, Jason, I've got your great-grandmother here, because that wouldn't make any sense, would it? So therefore, you've got to sit and put the intention up out to God and the bigger power to say, I would like to be your instrument of communication, and I'd like to be able to talk through me. I will allow you to do this, and I need to be the best I can at this. But in order to do that, I need to sit in the power, be still, and have a knowing of what you need from me. And I feel when you sit in the power, what do they need from me? What do I need from them? It is a communication, I feel. So I also feel it actually energizes me, because I feel they give me some healing. I feel they give me some knowing. They give me insight. And they just take me on a journey that is extremely powerful. Nothing to do with the spirits that we're seeing and dealing with. But I have a knowing of pioneers. I have a knowing of the other realms. I have knowings of maybe where or what I should be going and in movement. But also, to be more realistic about sitting in the power, you get to feel a body sensation. So like maybe a cobwebby feel on your face. And you just know to sit very upright. So you know to keep your chakras in alignment. It's not sleepy, sleepy time, but it does.
Well, yes, I've gone wrong with that. You know, I used to prefer doing it lying down, and then I'd wake up thinking, have I been charged? Have I not? What's happened?
And this is exactly it. By not falling asleep, you should feel, I feel anyway, extremely well charged. And I also tend to, not every time, have a little story of what I've done, of what I've seen, what I've heard, what I've experienced, and what my body's had an adjustment to. So it might even mean that I get a slight adjustment in my throat, or I get a slight adjustment. And this allows me then for my mediumship to keep developing. So if we see it as a free, but the best way to look at it is if I sit in the power, and I would reckon, I think for me, I sat in the power at a regular time every week, once or twice a week. And that by doing that, and I had a busy life, and I feel, but by doing that, you are then just homing in your skills, and you're getting free tuition. It's free. You're not going to, wherever you're going or paying for an online course, or you're actually sitting there going, oh, if I take this as it saves me £20 bit of extra development, I think every student to go off, I'm saving a lot of money because you are developing in that time. That's what I feel anyway.
You make some very good points there. And I think that when you were talking, it was making me think that when you first start sitting, what I would do now, if I was to give advice to people, is you're sitting first of all, and you are, first of all, you've got to work on quietening the mind. You've got to work on, getting used to being able to get in a position where you can relax yourself enough, where you're not distracted, where you can, focus on your breathing, ground yourself, these sorts of things. But when you do have these experiences that happen to you, initially they can be very subtle, and I think sometimes people are, and I was expecting this, I would sort of sit there thinking, right, am I gonna see an orb running across the front of me? What am I waiting for? But the one thing that is consistent is I always feel and know that I'm in the power because I feel it. There is always a body sensation associated with it.
And I also think if it is a struggle, and I've got to admit, I didn't ever find it overly a struggle. I might have fell asleep a few times because none of us are perfect. Everything takes practice. So this is what you can't give up with. But if it is really a struggle, start with 5 minutes. Lead it up in time. It doesn't have to be arduous. It should be enjoyable. I love doing it, but I love doing it because I've learned to do it and I've conditioned myself, and it's very powerful. And like I say, it gives me a lot of energy, and the growth development is huge. And then the other thing to think about is it might be that you hear, you go to the wonderful Arthur Findlay, and they might teach you sitting in the power, but it might be that you don't actually enjoy the one they're saying, and they give you a recording. Then go and find one that does resonate. You've got to find what sits right with you, I think. Because there is so much. You've got Glyn Edwards, you've got loads of pioneers, you've got all the lecturers that are in here in the moment. So if you're more traditional, or if you want to be a little bit more young at heart, then go with what you're here. Go with what feels right, and you'll stick to it.
It might even be what feels right is just sitting in the silence. It might even be what feels right to you is no track. And there is so much to be said though about. I think sometimes when we're on this journey, and I do this in my own life, is I say, right, okay, I'm going to sit in the power every single night now, and then beat myself up because I haven't done it, and then realise that I've set unrealistic expectations from the beginning. You also mentioned as well about seeing it as a joy. It is a sacred experience. And I would sometimes go, oh, right, it's that time of the night again. Right, let's go up there now, and sort of drag my heels. But part of my problem at the beginning was because, we all have different challenges in life and different aspects. For instance, I have no issue whatsoever walking up to the platform necessarily. But my big issue at the start was quieting my mind enough to even be able to contemplate, feeling the power, because it took me a long time to be able to quieten my mind enough to be able to achieve that, which I want to come on in a moment to talking about these sorts of subjects in more detail. But I think you've just got to, like you said, even just making that time twice a week to sort of make it into an enjoyable experience, because mediumship is a creative process. And if you're already going in the wrong vibe and the wrong mindset, then it's pointless sitting, sometimes.
And I think you're right there. So imagine you say, right, every Friday at 9 a.m, I'm going to do that. Then actually by 8 a.m, you should be kind of going, oh, lovely, 60 minutes, I'll be doing that. And I'll be ready. And I've got my room ready, or I've got my chair ready. And just like you rightly said, as if it was a business appointment or you made an appointment, because you can't rock up 10 minutes late, because that wouldn't be acceptable.
I like that. But no, it wouldn't be acceptable.
No,
I'd expect you there on time. I'm waiting, Amanda. Melissa, even.
So I think that's a really big thing. And if that time doesn't work for you, then make it a different time that you're not too tired, which is very important. And it's not a time where you're going to make an excuse. I did try doing it with lots of different friends at various times. And actually that didn't work for me personally. But I think it's worth, if you've got a friend who's going on a similar journey, and even via Zoom, it does help. I think that helps the power.
Oh, it definitely does help.
And it also makes you do it. But then if it's only, I recommend doing that for half an hour. And I don't do it for much longer, maybe an hour occasionally.
And I think start with realistic expectations, Start with just even 5 minutes of quietening one's mind. And just the benefit alone of even being able to be in control of your thoughts, to be able to quieten your mind, is going to be a skill that serves you so well, even aside from connecting to the spirit world.
Just think, every time you've done it, you're a step closer to becoming a better medium, because your communication's opening, and you'll be like, oh, this is doing it all for me, but I have to sit for it to do it for me.
Yes, and I think as well, having that regular schedule, sitting regularly, and I even know this from my own experiences, is helped me so much in so many aspects of my life, because it's when I quieten my mind, that's when I get these kind of downloads of insight, of intuition come in, because I'm actually giving them chance to enter the ether.
Yes, yeah. A lot of health benefits. Your breathing improves, your mind is less busy, the neurons in your body are calmer. I mean, I'm no specialist, but you can sense it. You do that for a number of years, you're like, oh, I'm near enough a Buddha at this stage.
But it's a lot of people don't even realise when their nervous system is in a heightened state, because they're in a sense of fight or flight. Yeah. So, there is a lot of benefits as well. I want to ask as well, because you, aside from being a business person, and aside from all the other things you do, as well as sitting in your lovely workspace there that you use for your mediumistic work, you also have 3 daughters.
I do, yeah.
Yes, which, is a full-time job in itself. But it's always stood out to me as well, your understanding and acceptance of, sort of how you perceive the world, Melissa. And it always stood out to me that a lot of that was because of your children. So I understand that 2 of your daughters had autism. I'd like to ask you about your personal experiences here, because
firstly, it's never really a subject that we've talked about on the podcast. And I know that even to understand an autistic child in itself, it is a journey. So I guess, tell us about your experiences and your lovely daughters.
Well, yeah.
The super mum that you are.
Thank you. I will remind them. I think that's it, really. And that probably is the other 50% of why I've become a spiritualist, is because not only was I contending with a lot of ghosts and trying to pretend they weren't existing in the house and everything going on, and in the hotel I owned, it was a very busy life. I used to live in Bath. It's a very old city, but fascinating, but scary. It was scary. And then I had my three lovely children, and my eldest one, who has a very unusual form of autism, brought to me amazing parents, because basically, yet again, we talk about friends as a bit of a coincidence there. But basically, I obviously met an awful lot of parents, just like me, who were a bit lost because they had children with additional needs. And really, I would spend a lot of time with them talking about EHCPs, which is in the UK, a piece of paper that would allow your child to go to additional needs schools or to get the support they need. And it's vital. And, like myself, I had to fight to go to the court to get it and to get the support she needed. But on this journey, because I was probably such a fighter for getting it for her, as well as it being highly emotional, I mean, I was a pure wreck, because I had to support her, look after her, and also emotionally deal with it all.
And then fight for her at the same time,
Absolutely. It was draining. It was draining.
With everything else on your plate as well.
And absolutely. Running the hotel and having other children, because I never noticed anything was wrong, if I'm honest, till she was about 6. And then basically, it was like a whole world opened up with these most amazing friends who were in the same boat as me. And then
what was it that made you start to realise that, at 6 years old?
She never answered she wouldn't answer a name, which, so unless you put your hand on her shoulder. And then really, she wasn't learning to read or write. But in another way, I think because she's probably my child, she's an extremely spiritual child. So she's very knowledgeable and she was like talking to a 20-year-old, but as a 5-year-old. So which kind of camouflaged maybe some of the...
Well, I can imagine you would be thinking, well, she's learning very quickly, developing.
That turned out not so much from a teacher's point of view. And so, we had these challenges, but then to have these friends who are crying in unison with you because they've got children and they're not being accepted at school, or going on a similar journey of like, what is it we've got? What is our learning? What is our journey? What are we supposed to do with children that aren't accepted into the school system? And I did so much. Hopefully, I did a lot of help for other parents, because I kind of was like, right, I'm going to be here for other parents, one-to-one, help each other. And some of my friends did likewise. And I quite often get a phone call saying, I hope you don't mind, but so-and-so told me, you've got a child like mine, and can you help me? And basically, I ended up doing it felt like a lot of counselling, because I'd been through it, and I was really, really wanting to help people, because I didn't want them to go through what I had to go through. Because it's lonely. And also just to get the right support and help for your child, because they don't come with a manual. And it's really complicated.
No, they don't.
It's complicated.
No, they don't.
And then and it takes years for a diagnosis, and then they go, oh, maybe it's not, which is, and then you've got the whole, should you have a label? Should you not have a label? I'm like, give her a label. I said, I need an EHCP.
Yeah, you don't even think about these aspects.
It just, do you know what? And my mum puts it absolutely right to me. She said, Melissa, this is the one thing is totally out of your control. You can't fix this. And she was absolutely right. I couldn't fix it. I can just go with it and I can learn from it. And really, I thought, wow, do I continue helping all these parents as well as trying to run my businesses, or actually is spirituality where I go with this? Because maybe there's a different way of me teaching and learning and understanding the complexities. And I was only just saying to you before we came on, the amount of people that come for readings, but I'm able to understand when I'm doing psychic readings, and I can really help parents kind of govern and understand and see where things are going, and are, on a mental, emotional, physical way. And I just think, well, this is wonderful, because I've actually now been able to kind of really utilise that journal of information that I have on a quite simple way, and Spirit are helping me with parents in this way now.
It's kind of, from looking through the looking glass here, it's like, from the moment that your daughter was diagnosed, it's acted as a catalyst for you to suddenly have become a warrior for other parents who, there's a lot to be said. Like, me and you are quite similar in that respect. I'm like my granddad. I always want to believe there's a solution. And if something is not able to be fixed, I sort of feel, you can feel very hopeless. But, you sort of going into that story as well, I think to see how it's led you to now even meet in your mediumship, having so much of that sort of infused with what's been going on with other parents. And also people themselves, where they feel maybe feel a bit lost, or maybe the issues they have, their questions they're coming to you with, is all because the real answer is the way their brain works, and isn't that okay? I actually feel that so many people who've got neurodivergent conditions have got, like, they're highly talented in so many areas. They're like supercharged.
Yeah.
And, I know that my ADHD really is my superpower. It allows me to perceive the world in a very different way. But that was a problem in school. That was a problem, because neurodivergent kids, they do not fit into that linear school model, because it's not made in that way.
And I've actually moved house for my children so that they go to, there's only 2 in the country, a neurodiverse school to assist them, and they have a whale of a time, because I was like, no, we've got to put them in a school that they fit into, not them fit into a school that don't. Because, and I hope they tell me they have the best time they can have at school, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. How does it differ? Is it kind of, how do they?
Well, it's a lot of practical. So so even maths is practical, and they've got a farm, and they've got, you name it, they've got it.
That sounds like where I needed to go for school.
Anything to diversify from sitting in the classroom is the way they learn. Because the neurodiverse children are no different to people who aren't. We've all got different levels of ability, and they've all got different strengths and different weaknesses. So it doesn't make any. It's no different in that respect. It's not they're all geniuses, and it's not that they're all can't do things you wouldn't think they can. It's just been very open to the world's gone. The world is kind of having to understand that we should all be communicating together, and so I feel that the neurodiverse people and the neurotypical people, why aren't the neurotypical people, who kind of get a better grasp of things, shall we say, Why aren't they learning to talk to the neurodiverse people in the way they understand? Why is it the neurodiverse people have to learn how to talk to them? Doesn't make any sense, does it? I don't think.
No,
Why
it
are we in
doesn't.
school not going, all right, okay, if you've got somebody who doesn't understand this, this, and this, how do we put it in a different way?
Yeah, it's all about what that person understands. If you're not speaking the right language, speak a different language.
Yeah, because state schools, you've got a communication, they'll only communicate one way. It's rigid. But the world isn't rigid. So why are we not going, okay, we're going to learn and communicate to the way we understand this is they're communicating. Let's give them a hand. But we don't seem to have got there with that yet.
No. Well, I think we need to look at education in a whole, because I think intuitive studies should be a massive part of education, you know, telling people about their intuition, to trust their judgment, how to harness that, especially in the world that we live in now, where people are looking outside of themselves so often for, you know, information. Everyone's on their phone, their tablet or whatever. It's almost like we don't trust in our own gut feeling anymore.
Yes. I mean, it's opened a whole new can of worms, AI, which is amazing. But it is a little bit worrying that we can't think for ourselves to a point. And it will be interesting to see how many problems will be created from this, will it not?
I do agree. I do agree. Do you know what? I do love a bit of ChatGPT, but you do have to be careful with it. You know, it doesn't always give the right answer, and it flatters you endlessly. I'm always right, according to ChatGPT as well. Jason, you are wonderful. This is another fantastic idea.
Yeah, and the only problem with AI is it doesn't understand emotions, does it?
No, it doesn't.
So therefore, we're weirdly, and which is what we just talked about, why isn't the neurotypical person able to talk to the neurodiverse person? Now, isn't the AI the neurodiverse person? And yet, so all of a sudden we've gone, we can't talk to them, but we can talk to AI. It doesn't make any sense, does it?
It doesn't make any sense.
And then we've got Harry Potter, right? We all love him. Why, like you say, why haven't we put that in the school curriculum? Why are we not that diverse?
I agree. Yeah, make it fun. Make it inspiring. Give children things they want to
teaching intuition and breath work and whatever else.
Breath work, meditation. We need to be teaching that in schools. 100%. Yes. Definitely. It should be as valuable as PE time, you know, in some ways. But you got to work out your body. You got to, you know, make sure your mind's in check. And actually, if they encouraged more children and walked people into meditation, you know, that would immediately tackle, you know, mental health issues.
It would. I mean, they're bringing in a lot of counselling and therapy, and that's all out there. And then there's all, you know, obviously we haven't touched on children that maybe have physical disabilities, but all that would be such a huge way to help everybody, because we're meant to be inclusive, aren't we?
Well, I guess, you know, what advice from your own experiences would you give to, you know, parents who may be on that journey of discovery with their children?
I think it's important to stay really strong. I think my biggest thing would be that you have to accept it and embrace it. It would be my biggest thing to say. Embrace the child that you have and just go there and let them show you their capabilities. Let them show you their likes and dislikes, and then just keep holding their hand and just see where it leads you, because I think that is that they've got that they're them, aren't they?
They are, you know, I guess you don't ever want to say to, you know, a child, you can't do that, unless they're misbehaving in the aisle in Sainsbury's, then it's a whole nother story.
Yes, but then, like any child, it doesn't matter if you're neurodiverse or, you know, likewise. At the end of the day, discipline and family values, that they have to be for everybody, do they not?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. I think, well, I'm very glad you managed to get your daughters into school after such a battle. You know, a lot of people do not have that amount of fight, Melissa O'Sullivan, I have to say.
No, it is a fight. Yeah. Yeah, fight it to fix it, is it not?
It is. So I want to just go back then to what are you doing at the moment in terms of your mediumship? Because you've, started this business now. It's, going very well. You're doing lots of readings. Where are you wanting to go in your journey?
Yeah, well, I think I wanted to talk to you about that because to the listeners, because you do all this developing, don't we, Jason? And we do lots of sitting in the power, and we do all the lectures, and we do go on the wonderful courses, and then all of a sudden you kind of go, oh my God, I best actually do some readings, and I best start putting that intention out there, and I'm really scared, and am I good enough? And then you start to add it all up going, well, I best do this. And then you've got these lovely friends, and they're like, everyone's going, oh, I've dipped my toe in, I've done a reading, and, and we'll start to like kind of literally like on the side of a pool jumping slowly kind of, and we're all going off on different directions. That's what's fascinating about spirituality, because we start off thinking we're going to be a medium, but no one medium's the same.
No.
Which is and because mediumship's very much about our personality. So what you see is what you get, and we have to bring our personality on board with all of that. So basically I go to Circle at Stourbridge Church, which is amazing, and I've got my lovely Roberta and everybody there. They're lovely, and that has really kind of brought me up. I think Circle is a fantastic and a very important part of developing personally, because every time you go, you can say to yourself, what did I learn? What did I do? What did I experience? And that's different to maybe practicing with people. It's a bit of a different edge to it. And I love Circle, but I love church as well, admittedly. And then from that, I set up my website eventually, and I'm doing one-to-one readings. I'm also demonstrating. So I am doing my CSNU with the church. There's the SNU church, but just doing that nice and slow and steady. And then I'm actually doing work so not just church, I'm doing more demonstrations that are like in venues. And I've just been offered with that. I do one-to-one readings as well after that. A few days later, I do that. And then the other thing I do is we're just talking about doing workshops and having fun intuition classes. I do some ghosty work now as well, because I love ghosts.
I
love them now. I don't fear them.
We could talk about that a lot, because we both share that passion. And I know that you've recently been looking into, house clearances and things like that.
Yeah, love it.
From your own experiences, you're tried and tested, because when you was in Bath, that house,
Yeah, and you know what? I was like, and I just never wanted anybody to fear the way I felt. I mean, I literally would run out that house going, oh, I can't cope with what's going on and all these feelings.
What do you think's going on there when that's happening in the house? Do you believe that is a spirit person doing that? What is going on when someone is in that environment? Why are they choosing to do that?
Oh, why the spirit's doing that to the person?
I just guess, because my belief is when we're a spirit, we go up and, why are we stuck in the house wanting to do these things? Why?
And that's what I love doing. So it's not just about, so say if I did do a remote clearing, it is because what's going on? What are the people experiencing in the house? What is that? What is it? Is it ghost? Is it earthbound or whatever? Need to find out what it is. And then what's their story? Who are they? And why are they there? And what is it that they need from me to help them? Because it's now time for these other people in the physical realm to live in harmony and in peace.
Yes.
But I think it's lovely to know why they're there and what I can do to help them to not be there.
And do you find that after asking them, they, by giving them that acknowledgement and having that conversation, is that then sort of the book closed on the matter and the affair, or?
Yeah, generally. I mean, you just always have to have a little check back in with the people.
Are we on the same page here?
Yeah.
Are we?
Is there anything? Is there still anything going on, or are you feeling? Is it feeling settled? Is the house feeling lighter? Is it got an ease about it? That's what it's all about, isn't it? And if there isn't, is what fine-tunement needs to be made there. But I think it's so nice to know somebody's story as well, because we've all got a story, haven't we?
Well, I think as well, we all grow up that, ghosts, poltergeists, spirits, these things are absolutely scary. So the first thing that, because I used to hear this story from my mum all the time, that my sister went absolutely crazy growing up, so much so that stuff used to happen in this house where they lived. The plant pots would spin when my granddad, the medium, was out, things would happen, and eventually my mum's sister was having a mental health breakdown, so much so that they had to move out of the house.
I mean, you've just hit the nail on the head, because it goes from watching, say, a little bit of Uncanny on TV, going, oh, this is fascinating, but then reality sits here, and you're like, hang on a minute, this is day in, day out of TV's going mad, or, you can feel you just know stuff and you hear stuff, and it's just, your mind is just not just within itself. It's not calm. There's no switching off.
I think it's also, we have spirits around us all the time in our homes anyway. It's, if you suddenly, think that you're always in your home and a spirit never comes to visit you, you are probably far mistaken. It's just you're not tuned into it to a lot of people. Yeah. I believe family members, probably come by quite often. It's just we choose to, well, I've had things happen to me over the years where I'll say, oh, that was weird that just happened. I'll say, oh, it was a coincidence. It was obviously something to do with the power, or, there's always something that it could be, but I always trust in my feeling now. Melissa, I am loving our time together, which is drawing to an ever close. And, if you do want to find out more about Melissa, you can go to our website, which is in the show notes. I want you to leave us with a final thought today. I think we've covered so many really interesting topics, from how you get going, to right through what your journey. And I think even what you said there about, what you do and, what drives you is fascinating. So please leave us with a thought today.
Right. Well, I think for any budding people out there that feel a real calling to mediumship, just find a meditation of the sitting in the power and an attunement for that. Attunement's when you actually want to work. Find ones that resonate with you, that you would look forward to doing, and that's, I think, is the most important. That takes a little bit of effort, that does, to try and find different ones that you might like. And then really, anyone who's interested in spirituality would love to hear or like the thought of having a message or evidence brought to them from a loved one or a friend, somebody over in spirit world, and they've never really known what to do, where to go. Just even try a spiritual church if you can, whether that's on Zoom, going into one. Just try. I mean, I'm part of the SNU church, which is really what mediumship, I feel, is a lot about, and that's what I love to serve. But you can go in there, you give a small donation, you can hear a lovely prayer or address. You don't need to be religious at all, if that's not even floats your boat. But you might get a message, but you might just start your own spirituality off, to kind of go, oh, there's a bit more to the world than just this one. And isn't that a lovely little thought in your head, that you've just engaged that there might be just more to you than you thought there was?
And there might just be... All that leaves me to say is, Melissa O'Sullivan, thank you for coming onto the Soul Sync podcast.
My pleasure, Jason. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, there we go. You might just have gifts that you never knew about. I think we all have gifts, and I think sometimes we have a lot more gifts than we actually think we do. What Melissa is saying about sitting down and being in the power and getting to know your energy, getting to know your spirit team is something that I am striving myself ever more to do, and it has so many benefits. I get something from it every single time I sit. I just need to sit and still my mind. But until next time, goodbye.